What's up everyone, CR2 here. Hope you're having a good day whenever you're watching from. Today bringing you the, is it week 9 now? We're now coming up on week 9. ARCA at Nashville Superspeedway. This track, one of my favorite ovals, just something about getting that appropriate braking point, get down to that apron line without touching it, and just really kind of I'm stumbling for the words here, but just something about really braking, getting to that apron line without touching it, and just being as smooth as possible in your line. So, this is like the first test session of the first of. I'll usually fire up test sessions in batches just to see what can possibly fire it up. This is like the first one that didn't have crazy amounts of fog. So 73 degrees. We're gonna stick with this. Just note you're very likely to see some pretty foggy conditions in any of the races you run for next week. Don't know why. It looks terrible at times, but oh well. Let's just hope for the best in this case. And this is a very, very weird setup to me. 8,000 spring rate on the left front, 7,000 on the right front, 1650, 600. I mean, the rear springs make a little more sense to me, but wherein do you run a stiffer left front spring rate than your right front? So, anybody that happens to know why, please feel free to let me know, but just this is a setup that doesn't make any sense to me, just simply to play around with it. All I really did was put the car as low as possible. I think it went down to like a mid 4,000 spring rate with like a high 3,000 left front and barely touched the spring rates on the right rear. And it wasn't much faster, but it felt looser. So this is kind of a bad setup challenge week in my opinion. So, as you saw, you're going to want to dump your brake bias all the way down, 50% in the garage, go down that extra 3% in car. I've never gotten this car to break loose. I've ran like two full practice races, and just, heck dude, I don't know. Car never snapped loose on me. So let's get on out there for the qualifying lap. This run-up is pretty tough. Turn on down. A little bit early on. Actually, no, we're fine. You may think I'm crazy for not braking, but trust me, you don't even need the brakes, and I'll get to that later. That's basically no faster. There you go, and that's just waiting appropriately longer on throttle.
Just check your fastest lap of the session.
That's good for a 29.706. So, that's not what we want. So let me turn the engine sound down a little more. So this run-up is a little bit on the tough side. kind of want to enter up high, and once you're kind of turning, it's a tough run up. If you go too early, you're gonna smack the wall. Pretty much as the wall straightens out off turn 4. It's a very tough run up to get. You can clock in 171, 172 at the line. You're off to a pretty good lap. And the gearing is, in my opinion, also terrible for this setup, so yeah. So, typically right at the end of this Rackley roofing ad, that's a good lift off and brake point if you're using brakes. And as far as getting back on throttle, you kind of want to wait until you see NSS4 in your windshield view. That's what I found to be a pretty good marker. Going any sooner than that, you're either really going to have to crank the wheel, or you might smack the wall right there anyway, somewhere in one of these Rackley roofing banners. And for turn 1, you can wait quite a bit longer. Pretty well when you start your turn in, and you can get on throttle a little bit sooner for exit of turn 2. Actually caught on it too early there, so definitely be patient getting back on throttle, especially for turn 4. Otherwise that wall is going to come at you really quick and just pancake your right side. Just run it on up, and want to say at 73 degrees should be able to look for a 29.7, a high 29.6. So let's get on out there for a 35 lap race, so a little bit on the shorter end. I'm running 10 to 1. Feel free to try 8, 12, it's all a personal preference thing, but 10 to 1 is what I found to be most comfy. Check that brake bias again. So, while we're rolling up to the practice race start, I don't really see draft being a thing because the gearing is so short. You're going to chip out like halfway through either the front or the back straight. Dirty air might be a thing, so practice running like a car width up pretty much. But draft I don't see being a big deal. Dirty air certainly should be. I think it will. So keep that in mind. Might actually be able to do a first gear start. Off your throttle. Just slightly too soon on throttle. Now, I'm sure you guys remember me saying that ARCA and 87s in driving style are somewhat similar. What ARCA feels to me is just essentially 87s, but faster, pretty gnarly draft at some tracks, and dirty air. So, in 87s, what do? Kind of easier entry, really wait to get back on throttle, wait until you're sitting on that right rear, and then you can pretty much just full throttle. You get back too soon on throttle, that it's going to push out crazy hard on you. touch that apron, you see it kind of pushes the car away. And you can notice that I'm just lifting off. Engine braking is slowing us down, getting us through the corner, and let me run about 25 laps. I'll get to the braking and just watch the difference in time. Or even watch each lap time as I complete them and just notice where they start to fall off. And it should be somewhere in like high 30.0s, low 30.1s. And I just happened to stumble across this. I decided to try it, and I'm like, I am hardly falling off at all. To see that NSS4 sign with the sun right there, so that'll be a certain difficulty depending on your cloud conditions or fog. Not really a clear marker for turn 2. If you wait to see that NSS2 sign in your windshield mirror, you're waiting too long in my opinion. Center and exit of 2 is, you gotta feel that one out. And pretty well, once you're just about a tire width away from that apron line is a good place to get back on throttle, because the idea you want is once you're back on throttle, you pretty much want to be able to go to full throttle and just hold it until you're slowing down for the next corner. We're coming to take lap 10, and we're tracking right at 29.8 right now. Oh, that's too soon on throttle. I had to lift off of it just a little bit. Can't cut this once in a while, but I would say really if you just want to cover someone off or trying to make a pass on you, or if you're trying to pass somebody. But other than for defending and passing, I don't recommend cutting at every lap. It may or may not speed up tire wear. It's marginal, but again, if it's marginal, what's the benefit in doing it, in my opinion? Just look at this, we're sticking pretty well in the 30-0s. Dipping into 29.9s when I managed to hit the markers. Pretty spot on. Getting close there. And I cut it there because that's just where the nose was pointed, or else we left the turn. We are on lap 15 of this run right now. Tiny touch of the brakes just for a little extra rotation, but brakes are plenty useful in trying to perhaps get a little bit of extra rotation or try to dive in on someone for position, but remember that also generates tire heat. Tire heat is going to speed up tire wear. More tire heat, more tire wear means slower. So a really good way in keeping your speed long run is keeping your tire heat down. So you're just simply lifting off, letting your engine braking slow you down, get to the bottom of the corner. You're not putting any heat in those brakes, therefore not putting any heat in those tires. What I recommend you guys to do like 2 20-lap runs. If you can do 2 runs each longer than that, then even better. First run, or vice versa, break every turn entry. But the previous run, the following run, do the opposite. Lift only to make your turns. Brake only just for that tiny bit of rotation, but minimum brake as possible. And just see how the car feels. See how your lap fall off goes. And what this got me curious about is what other tracks have we run so far with this car in its first season where it's possible to go no brakes, just lifting. Dover perhaps, maybe? That's one I'm now really curious about. Where else? Certainly Charlotte as well. I think I did use a little bit of brake there. So, but going forward, that is something I'm gonna consider in any guide that I make with this car now. Because it certainly showed me that brakes are not required. So, this is about we just took lap 20, so 15 to go. Okay, let's try to find some alternate lines. So remember that ARCA is also plenty about trying to stay out of dirty air, so you notice that I'm taking a little bit of a wide entry. That opportunity for you is to turn in a little bit earlier and you get some clean air on your nose. Just any little bit of clean air you can get on your nose is going to help just that tiny little bit. So you get your turn in going sooner, you've got some clean air while I'm still arcing down. So you just kind of get to that yellow line as soon as possible. Now this does mean you have to wait just a skosh longer, getting back on throttle. Now mind you, that was a terrible lap I just turned. it's a little bit faster just because you got a straighter exit and back on throttle sooner. Out there a tiny bit. You can see we're still turning 30 zeros. So now we're gonna switch to brakes. Double check that brake bias, okay? And just pay attention to the race laps. We'll start it after this here. It is a little bit on the tight side, the car. Just a skosh slower than that 044 from a few laps ago that we're comparing to. You can see I'm braking a little bit later. I'm really starting to, it's really kind of offering me the opportunity to attack the entry. Car still feels really good. It's a little bit on the tick side, but it's not plow box tight. You can see we're just starting to get a little bit slower every lap. But what I do like about the no brakes option is you're naturally bleeding off speed. You're not kind of prematurely killing off any speed. You can still carry to the center of the corner, and it feels a little bit more consistent to me. Notice I'm losing time because I can't get back on throttle as soon as it was just lifting to make the turn. 155. But now, after this lap, we are going to go to just simply lifting. Just lift, let your engine braking get you down to the apron. Wait for that NSS4. this will be the last lap. See, 30.16. Alright, let's go in and check that tire wear. Okay, so just really quickly through that practice run, say you could kick off at a 29.9, 29.8, and then just even up until this is even approaching lap 30, you could still turn a 30.0 if you're really good at managing that tire heat and tire wear. 82, 92. You're going to use, I think this is a pretty good tire wear split. You're going to use right front more than right rear at this track. Concrete, a little bit of hard entry. To really save your right rear, I think you're just going to give up a lot of time. You might get it back towards the end of the race, but this is only 35 laps. Tire saving isn't really paramount. If this was a 45 lap race and it has before with the old ARCA car, then we're talking a different story, because that's time-wise, that's a long race, and to make those tires last an extra 10 laps is definitely a challenge. So give yourself 35 laps, guys, of a practice run. Try to aim for something like this, 82, 92. If you can get that a little bit closer, then absolutely awesome.